Hey everybody, Jonathan Wells here. Welcome back to another episode of Local Legends. Today we have with us Angela Forystek with Macaulay Real Estate,
Yes.
agent that's been in the business for a while and has a lot of different things to share from her perspective. When it comes to owning a business and dealing through adversity and just the complicated nature of real estate transactions. So,
Yeah. Hi.
Angela, take us away. Introduce yourself here.
Hi, I'm Angela Forystek. Thank you for having me. I honestly wasn't really prepared to talk on a podcast. Jonathan just kind of messaged me and, said I should probably have some things to talk about, which I always do. So I jumped on the chance because, I'm kind of at that point in my business and my life where I have the time to actually put all the pieces together and these things that I've been working on for 20 years now.
Mhm.
I'm ready to put it all together and do my job. So
Awesome. I love it.
yeah.
Well, let's start with a little bit of background, on yourself. So you've been in the real estate business since 2019, or like 2020, I think is what we said, right?
Yeah. So I started classes in 2019, like
Gotcha.
October area or yeah, around October. And then I took my test in January, got licensed, and it was like 2 months before COVID actually kind of took over and things changed a bit. But
Nice. There you go. So coming into the business, like, during that time, explain to everyone that, might not be aware, like the market was pretty balanced in 2019, right?
mhm.
And so you had like what, maybe 2 months of like a normal market before everything kind of picked up?
Yeah, so I mean, you can tell things were like starting to change right in the beginning.
Hmm.
My first deal didn't actually close until that September. So in the summer of that market, like everything just started really changing quickly, like under our feet. And it was, my first deals and kind of knowing that we had to get things going. And then people that I had talked about or talked with for years, I was like, if you want to buy now is really the time. And
Hmm.
you can kind of see that coming, but it was hard to explain to people why. And
Right.
kind of, just watching it happen and, people like, oh, we're going to wait for the market to crash. And it's like, well, I wouldn't, but
Yeah.
that's your, choice.
Yeah. Well, it's always funny too. Like, I think that a lot of times, people just take whatever like news headline they see and they're like, oh, this is going to be my reality. Right.
Mhm.
And, I feel like this is kind of cliche. I say this all the time, whether I'm talking to a friend, a team member, or, a client. Like things are never as good as they seem and they're never as bad as they seem.
Right.
Right. So like, I remember we were expanding at the time, the company I was with, we were expanding into Florida. And so I was one of the people that would go there like, once every 2 months for a week or two and work from there. So I was getting my haircut at a barbershop in Florida one day, and like this guy is talking into the chair next to me, talking to his barber. He's like, yeah, he's like, this is like 2020 or 2021. He's like, I'm gonna sell my house now because we're getting like all these offers for it. And then I'm gonna wait like 6 months, the market's gonna crash, and I'll buy my house back at a discount and I'll make all this money on the spread. And I was like, okay, so in theory, I'm like, what? I'm like, I didn't
Yeah.
interrupt because I'm not gonna just talk to this guy while I'm sitting in the barber chair. Like, I'm not that type of person.
Yeah.
Um,
Trying really hard to bite your lip.
yeah, I was just like, whatever. Like, ignorance is bliss, right?
Mhm.
So, I was in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, like, looking at it now, if you look at Florida, home values have actually gone down in Florida over the last 12 months. But they still went up like another, I think, 30% from when that guy sold his house.
Mhm.
So, the market continued to go up another 30%. Now it's probably down like 5 or 6%. So you're still, you still lost out on, like, you're not buying a house similarly for the same price,
Right.
like you cashed out too early. And so when you're trying to time the market like that, I feel like, there's really the people that end up like I've had really good success of like purchasing and selling homes at the
Mhm.
right time, but also like every single time I'm like, I'm a genius. It's like, no, it's literally just I got lucky
Yeah.
like 3 different times.
Mhm.
So yeah, I would
Yeah.
say don't time the market, right?
No, you really can't. And that's like what I always tried to do too. Like even with getting my license, it's like, okay, I was trying to time the market. I was trying to hurry up, get my license so I could hurry up and buy before things changed. And, I wasn't considering the children and the other variables that I really had to think about. Like, I wasn't prepared for a pandemic to send them home and like not have these plans in place. So it was like, oh
Right.
wait, okay, I guess I can't sell my house. So if I would have, just bought when I was ready instead of trying to save money and plan it perfectly, we probably could have been in a bigger house and, not had to worry about that, with the small kids. But,
Yeah.
that was one of the benefits, though, of buying before we had kids, is that we always kind of counted on me staying home with them and not having this huge mortgage. And that's been a lifesaver for, the last 10 years. So,
yeah, definitely. And it's always fun, like, interesting too, like the, back when I got in the business, back in I was in the business since 2017, but I got licensed in end of 20 or beginning of 2018. And like back then, I mean, every single person I talked to, I'm like, what do you want your payment to be? They're like $1,000. I'm like, cool, no problem. Like, rates are 4.5%, 5%. You're gonna buy a $180,000 house in Valpo, which those still existed back then.
Right.
And exactly, you're gonna put down $5,000 because we're gonna get some seller credits. You're gonna bring a minimum down payment. We're gonna get this wrapped up, and then cool. 60 days from now, you're gonna be a homeowner. It's gonna take you 30 days to find one, 30 days to close, ready to rock and roll. And now the new norm is, I would say, $2,200 to $2,500 for a payment in most cases, because home values have increased. You've also seen obviously rates increase too, and so 10 years from now, the average payment's probably going to be $3,500, $4,000. And so that's just how things continue to progress over time. And so back then when payments were $1,000, or people would bitch at a $1,500 payment, right? So it's just interesting to see that like the bitching never changes, but the math does. So just get into the house and bitch now,
basically,
and then you'll be happy later.
Well, and that was it too. It's like I was arguing with actual children for 5 years, and it was like everything is so urgent to them and like life altering, and it's like I get it, but come on, dude, like you're 4, like you have no idea. So then basically just trying to get out of that stressful environment and go back into a career, which real estate was the best option for me at that time. And I knew the stress that was involved with it. So watching adults basically act like children over things that you can't control was very easy to just be like, hey, listen, you're a grown up, you can deal with this, instead of listen, you're a 4-year-old, I'm sorry, your granola bar has a crack in it, like like that's life changing. But they're reacting the same way, and it's like I can't change anything. I could just kind of sit here and show you what's going to be happening at the end of the day, and we're going to be sitting at a table signing papers. You're going to be getting keys to a house. That's the goal, and that's what I'm here to help with.
Exactly. And I think that like a lot, and I feel like you probably experienced this too, there's a lot of people out there that, I know this is a cliche thing to say, but like blocking their own blessings, like I had a client, like, thank God we got this one worked out. I almost like jumped through the phone and like beat him up, but we have this deal put together, and he's getting like, basically him and the sellers are like within $5,000 of each other. Right. And it's like the purchase price is over $300,000. So this is very minimal, at that price point. Right. And so the sellers are like, hey, listen, like we're basically going to come down to pretty much splitting the difference with this guy. And, we're going to, just sign the counter. Like we'll get this done. We've been in negotiations for 3 days. The house has been listed for maybe a week. And, there's potentially going to be other showings later on that week too. And I'm like, I've seen this a million times. I know how the story ends. This guy doesn't sign the counter. He tries to renegotiate. Somebody else comes in. They offer the same or better. And then the seller's like, hey, we want to work with this guy because he's not a pain in the ass. Right.
Exactly.
And so tale's old as time. So the guy is like, okay, I'm going to counter back, and I'm going to ask for like basically $1,000 off of like what they were offering. I'm like, bro, what the F are you doing right now? I'm like, this has nothing to do with financials. This is just your ego.
Right.
And so like, I was like, don't let your ego prevent you from getting this house.
Is this the client or the agent?
The client.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The agent and I are on the same page.
Okay,
I'm both like, this guy is crazy. And like, it's her brother-in-law.
Okay.
Right. So
like
sense. So like there is like, we're not just saying this to like random ass people. Right. But I mean, sometimes you do, but
Sometimes you have to.
Sometimes you have to. I'm like, dude, like I'm on your side, man. Like, okay, $1,000, like you are like, there's no logical. I've already ran through the numbers with you 5 different times. There's no logical reason why you need an extra $1,000 off. Doesn't make a difference in your budget. Doesn't make a difference in your cash to close. Like it's literally, this is just because you want to feel like you got to win, and like the win is you get in the house, bro. So I feel like a lot of times people have to be reminded, of that going through the process, that it is, it's going to feel very emotional. And like I've bought and sold homes too. It feels very emotional when I do it.
Yeah.
And I definitely feel a different type of way about my own personal deals than I do about other people's deals because I'm not invested in other people's deals. That's just my job,
Yeah.
right? And so, having somebody that's in your corner like yourself to help bring them back to reality. And at the end of the day, you're accomplishing the goal that they've got, right?
Mhm.
Like that's your job.
Right.
Your job is obviously, yes, you want to get your sellers the best price you possibly can for their house. And for the buyers, you want to negotiate the best price for them.
Mhm.
At the end of the day, though, like your job is getting the deal to the closing table because that's what they want.
Right. Yeah, and I think I'm kind of the opposite where I take on all these emotions. I get
Yeah.
super emotionally invested in every client,
Hmm.
and it's just because it is my job and I'm very emotionally invested in my job.
Yeah.
And because, like my main job is kind of still at home with the kids, the education, like all of the logistics and administration there. So I take clients that I want to work with, not
Hmm.
just any client that comes through. So I do really connect with them and I understand like how important this is to them.
Right.
So just kind of taking on like that burden of, yeah, this is emotional. I get it, but I promise you, if it doesn't work out, something else will come through and it always does. And, just kind of reminding them in that moment. And my clients have been really understanding for the most part when that does happen, that they know it still doesn't make it easier in the moment though, that,
Yeah.
you lost out on your dream house because of $1,000 that you were trying to win a battle and somebody came in with another offer and you lost it. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, I wasn't prepared for that. Well, yeah.
Yeah. Well, exactly.
Right, of course. That's why we don't want to keep going back and forth. Like you want to kind of know what you want to do beforehand. You talk about your options with your lender, your realtor, and you have a plan in place before you just start looking at all the houses. And
Yeah.
yeah,
No,
it's
exactly.
really important to do. And
Absolutely, 100%. So what are some things like okay, so you're not just a real estate agent, you also have other businesses that you work, right?
yes, yeah. So those are new. I just started a consulting and marketing,
Okay.
kind of like just it's basically everything that you do with real estate, but in the whole general business sense. So
Sure.
the reason I got into real estate is because it's kind of a cumulative of everything, and it's always something I wanted to do. I'm really interested in the houses, but I got into business back in 2005 when I graduated high school and immediately started working in sales and corporate and just I'm a numbers and a systems person, and you know I made money just by talking to people and being like, oh, I could fix your problem. Like, let's go buy these little things over here and we'll build that and fix something. And then it's like, oh, you have a talent for this. Let's see where it can go. And then just selling cell phones for years, and then got into business school and just always liking to help people solve problems and consulting in that end and how to get people to buy into your crazy ideas, basically.
Yeah,
Is what.
awesome. So you've always been a fixer then?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I like that. Yeah. I think that like, it kind of resonated with that. I've always definitely been like, I would say I've always been a negotiator. I haven't always been a fixer, but I
Okay.
was the middle child growing up. So I was
Okay.
always trying to get an edge up, right?
Yes.
So yeah, always been like a negotiator or like a deal maker or whatever.
Mhm.
And so yeah, I mean, I think that people just have the personality for it, right?
Mhm.
And then obviously, like now, I'm definitely leaning more into the problem solving of a lot of things.
Did
So
you have a problem solver then in your family then that kind of took over that, like,
yeah,
okay, we all created this problem together, like I'll fix it.
kind
But you're then
of
negotiating like the terms, like, well, I want part of the credit
exactly.
for fixing this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something like
Okay.
that for sure. Like I got an older brother who was very like handy, right? So if it was like
Yes.
a mechanical problem or if it was a like physical like puzzle that you could put together, like he was
Mhm.
the one to do that, and then I was always the one to figure out like, okay, how can we get everyone to like forget this all happened, right? So
Yes. I have 3 brothers and I was the only girl, and that's kind of where I got all of my skills, was
yeah,
just growing up
yeah,
basically with no direction and plans and all the problems. Like I got into problems too, but they got into problems. So it's always, you have to be the negotiator at times. You have to be the
yeah,
fixer. You have to be the scapegoat. You
yeah.
have to be the one to kind of manage it all. And
Oh yeah,
learning when to do that and let other people take the reins at times is kind of, like letting my brother take the fall when I could fix his problems, but it's like, I don't
yeah.
want to anymore.
Exactly. No, for
Yeah.
sure. Yes, 100%. So I know that like I've had a few different like female entrepreneurs on the podcast
Hmm.
before as well. But like, what are some things that to help relate to other female entrepreneurs that are listening to this podcast? Like, what are some things that you've been able to overcome through your entrepreneurial journeys, and then what are some like things that you're working towards right now?
Um, and I mean, I hate to say it, but I'm extremely sensitive and emotional.
Sure.
So growing, before I had the kids and was able to kind of learn to regulate those a little bit more because I had to teach it to them, it was, just letting my emotions kind of get in control, like in business senses, and just taking on emotional things that I shouldn't have, and then
Mm-hmm.
letting that interfere with my job. So, one of the main reasons I did quit working for a while was because I was trying to do too much at one time, as
Yeah.
far as school and working full time and caregiving for, like elderly people. And it's just, I burnt out time after time. And I know my personality, I know how much I'm going to take on for a job. So, kind of limiting things and being very cautious of what I take on and what I don't take on, and
Mm-hmm.
just managing all of that, so I don't get to a place of burnout again and no longer want to ever look at real estate or things like that. So just keeping my emotions in check and remembering that at the end of the day, it's not what matters. What matters is, where I go home, who I go home to, and how
Mm-hmm.
I wake up in the morning feeling, and
Yeah.
kind of going back to that after complaining about all the dishes and the
Yeah.
messes, like this clutter. It's because, I do complain. I'm a complainer
Sure.
and I see it. And then it's like, okay, but why? What would you say to yourself if you were consulting yourself in this point? And then that's where I have to come in and be like, okay, grow up.
Yeah. I mean, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. And I would argue too, like I deal with all different types of, entrepreneurs, male, female, and et cetera. And I mean, I don't think emotions are necessarily just tied to female entrepreneurs,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like I've got, there's definitely more than a few, and sometimes I'm in there myself, but there's a lot of like male agents that I talk to, and I'm like, bro, like, come on, man, like get it together, bro. Like you need to like take a couple deep breaths. Like we got this. We'll make it happen. Don't worry
Yes.
about it. Like it's gonna be okay. And whether it's like they just have so much going on that they're burnt out every single day because they're
Mm-hmm.
working 14 hours a day, or, they had an agent call them on their listing and they're like, hey, like this house is overpriced and like, you suck at your job and like all this stuff. And the agent's like, bro, F this guy. I'm going to tell him like to go F himself. And I'm
Yeah.
like, hey, we're trying to get a deal done together. Remember that.
Yes.
Like just take it on the chin sometimes. Let the guy have his win. Get the deal done.
Mm-hmm.
Call him an a-hole after their closes.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah. And I mean, that's kind of the emotions that I'm able to handle better. It's more
yeah,
like when I don't prepare and then I start crying over something, and it's like, this person
sure.
came in and they lost photos of their dead grandma and they can't get it back, and it's like I'm in the back bawling my eyes out because I can't help them. And it's like,
Oh, so you're an empath. That's what
yeah,
it
that's
is.
kind of what it is. It's more like the more emotional and like ego, like anger, like I love it. And maybe it's because all the brothers, but it's like those I
Sure.
could diffuse better than somebody who has
Right.
genuine like emotions, like when you're selling an estate and it's like your
Yeah.
whole family life and you're packing it away. It's like
Yeah.
that is emotional, and it should be handled with more, compassion than an
Mhm.
investor who bought something on a market and then is just selling it as a,
Right.
as an asset. And it's like kind of being able to differentiate those and know who I want to target and who I
Yeah.
don't, and
Yeah.
making sure my emotions align with my work, basically.
Absolutely. So, are you like a sports fan at all?
I am,
Okay.
yeah, but not. So my husband's more like really into the sports, and
Sure.
he's, like diehard Chicago, no matter
Sure.
what, like, his team. So I'm not that. I'm more into like the skills, the team, like how they interact, and
Okay.
the money part of it, like
Yeah, definitely. Have you guys seen
business.
the new season of Quarterback on Netflix?
No,
I binged that in like
I
2 days, and
haven't
I
seen
don't
that.
watch TV very often.
Okay, did you watch the new? It was like a comedy one with what's his name? Justin Thoreau. It's the basketball. They're like a family business, and it's Kate Hudson takes over.
Okay.
Okay, that's a good one. It was on, I think it's called Running Point. But it's
Okay.
about like basketball and like the business behind it. And it's
Yeah.
three boys and the daughter that kind of takes over. And it was very
Perfect. I'll have to
great,
add that to
great
the
watch because it was a
list
binge
for
watch. I was like,
sure.
oh my god, this is perfect to like. It's funny, so you can like watch it while you're working and like laugh off some things. And
Nice.
yeah, it's a great sports movie or
Okay,
show.
perfect. Yeah, I'll definitely add that to the list. Is
Yeah.
it on Netflix?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. So, like, going back to your point about like, if you have a seller that's emotional because they lost
Mm-hmm.
a picture of their grandma or whatever, like, I get that
Mm-hmm.
because, I feel like I'm a pretty level-headed person, but I think I cried like 3 times during the like last season of Quarterback
Okay. Is this
because
scripted or is it a
no, so
documentary?
this is it's
Okay.
like it's a docu-series. So they
Okay.
have like it's like they just released their second season and they follow like 3 quarterbacks during the regular season of football.
Okay.
And so like you get to see like the quarterbacks they followed this last season is Kirk Cousins, which he was also in the first season. Joe Burrow is my favorite quarterback
Okay.
because he went to LSU and I was born in New Orleans. And then they followed Jared Goff.
Okay.
And so, like, if you don't know their backstories, like,
Mm-mm.
Jared Goff, basically, he got traded from his old team because they didn't think he was good enough to win a Super Bowl. And then, like, he beats that team in the playoffs
Nice.
that season when they're following
The
him.
underdog.
So, like, that was a really emotional moment, and for him, and then for everybody. And if you watch sports and you follow it, it's a very emotional moment. And then, like, Kirk Cousins, he's been in the league for, like, probably 15 years. And he's starting to go, like, downhill just because he's getting
Okay.
older. His body's not as good as it used to be. He's getting like a lot of injuries and
Yeah.
stuff. So you kind of see, like, him sunsetting that. And then Joe Burrow is younger, but he's probably, like, he's definitely one of the best quarterbacks in the league by far.
Who's he play for?
The Bengals, the
Okay.
Cincinnati Bengals. So definitely the best, like, I think the best quarterback in the league by far. Just from a, like, not necessarily a totally athletic point, but, like, if you need him to make a throw, he's making the throw, right?
Okay.
And so there's, like, it's him, like, they're following him and his team, and he had the best numbers statistically of any quarterback in the league, but his team missed the playoffs because his defense was so bad. And so it's following his frustration with everything else, and he can't call out his team, on like in front within the media or whatever, but everyone knows, like, this guy's pissed off, right?
Yeah.
And so, not to get on a whole tangent about the
No, but it just,
NFL.
like, my husband immediately, because every time, every Sunday I know the Bear, because he's like, fire the management. Like, what is this defense?
Exactly.
And it's like, why are you even still a fan of this team? Like, it's, and I get it. And that's where, like, the emotions, like watching the Cubs win, like, and the emotions there. Like, I teared up because of the emotions tied to, like, that history and the Chicago and the family, but also it's a baseball game, like, at the end of the day. But no, so I get the defense, and it's like when you're the quarterback, you're managing the whole thing, and it's not your responsibility if the defense isn't doing their job.
Right, exactly. And so, like, just watching, like, the struggles all these people go through, and they do a really good job of, like, putting it all together from a production standpoint. And I'm like, man, like, I was like, yeah, I'm not really, like, to your point, I don't, like, do I get offended when somebody, like, yells at me? Sure. But I'm also like, I know how to handle that.
Yeah.
And then, but, like, if I see, like, oh man, this guy's really trying his best and he just can't get it done, I'm like, oh.
Yeah, no, and that's like, so I tried to coach my son's soccer team.
Yeah.
And basically, like, I was kind of hoping that I would be able to be like that, like, oh, it's okay, honey, like, get up. And, like, I wasn't. So being out there on the field and, like, realize, like, these are little kids, but also, like, they need some of that, like, get out there, they need it, but not from both ends. And it was like, the other coach I had was more like, on top of that, and, like, what are you guys doing? Where I'm like, okay, guys, like, come on, it's supposed to be fun still, because they were first graders. But as they age, it's like they need some of that, like, discipline, and like they respond better to it. Yeah. But they also, like, the rules now, it's like you can't yell at the kids because they're gonna cry. And it's like, okay.
There needs to be a little bit of, I think,
there's no balance.
Yeah, you gotta have, like, that balance of, like, nurturing them, but then also being like, hey, like, you gotta go out there and get it done, And I feel like I've always been, like, I've always understood that if somebody cares enough to, like, actually keep yelling at me about it, like, they're not just yelling at me to yell at me for most of the time. I mean, sometimes there are people who do that, but
and even that, if somebody's paying attention enough to, like, help you when you're gonna make a mistake, or they're trying to help you avoid these things, then they care enough to, like, divert their attention and things to try to help you, which, at the time it seems like, oh, this person's, attacking me, or they're out to get me, but it might not really be that. They might see something in you that they want, to help grow. And kind of realizing that, I always took that victim, like, this person just doesn't like me. And it's, well, no, you're doing too much. You're making a lot of mistakes. They're trying to help, and you're getting in a lot of trouble. So slow down. Yeah. Growing up, just, before becoming an adult and a parent, and before I was kind of forced to slow down after burnout and trying to open a consulting business while still in college. And it's like those things that I see now in other people, I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess I was too, but I forget that I'm, kind of young, but not anymore. Like, that's what's kind of hard at being almost 40. It's like, I'm used to being the younger one, but I'm not anymore. And there's a lot of these younger kids that, they graduated high school when COVID was starting. So they have this different mentality. So a lot of my clients are much younger. They know exactly what they want. Yep. They're not messing around. They come in, they buy a house, they sell it in 2 years for a bigger home. And, they're 22 and set, and they know what they want. And it's like, I wish I would have had somebody helping me back then, instead of telling me, oh no, finish college. So you can
Sure.
do this. And it's like,
Why do you think that is? Because like I've noticed that a lot too. It's like over the last week and a half. I mean, I've gotten probably 5 or 6 loan applications that I'm looking at, and like every single one of them, like the birth date, the year is at like a 2002, 2003, 2006. I'm like, what the fuck?
I think it's because they basically, so I'm like thinking back to when I was in college and the first recession. So
Yeah.
I really switched into business back in like 2008. That's when I was doing, like a lot of my research, and I was working for companies like Sprint and Radio Shack. And in order to finish my assignments, I would have to do them in something that I was interested in or I was involved in. So I would do it in like places I worked and things like that, just to get a better understanding. And just kind of having like that insight into, okay, when crashes happens or recessions, things that, people weren't caught off guard because they were planning it, but
Mm-hmm.
all these people that weren't prepared or like were, really trying to buy into this great, like everything's going to be perfect and it's going to work out and we're going to be able to pay all these mortgages. It wasn't reality.
Mm-hmm.
And they were actually, the victims of it. It wasn't the people that, were orchestrating the whole ordeal and who suffered everybody. It wasn't, so kind of learning that back in economics like 101, just kind of like, oh wow, this is affecting everybody I know right now.
Right.
I don't want this to happen to me when it's time for me. So if I ever buy a house, I have to make sure that I could afford it if I, do lose a job, or if I do,
Sure.
have other things come up. And I don't think a lot of these kids were prepared for that because,
Mm-hmm.
they had everything at their fingertips from the moment they were born, and they have all this knowledge and information, and they're able to think more for themselves. So they're not just going to take what their parents say or what, the teachers tell them. They're going to find their own answers and they're going to come to their own conclusions. And it's really hard to sell to them. And
Yeah.
that's kind of what I'm noticing, is that they will find you.
Right.
You don't need to, and that's where I have to keep reminding myself as a business person. I don't have to keep going on Facebook and messaging and commenting and doing all these things because it doesn't work for me.
Sure.
It might work for some people, but it's not where I'm finding my people. And
Yeah. So like where do you find like yeah, go through that process. Like how do you find your clients?
So, I mean, I do find clients. I found clients on Facebook. So I hate to say that like I
Sure.
don't, because
Yeah.
I have. And actually my deal closing right now was just like a random anonymous post that I commented, and she ended up messaging me, and I usually don't, because I'm like, there's 5,000 realtor comments and like recommendations. And I know a
Mm-hmm.
lot of these, they are great agents.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to sit here and say I'm better, because I don't necessarily think I am better. Like I'm equal, yes, but I don't have time to take on what you need. So
Right.
but it's, word of mouth, sphere of influence. I've had, referrals from other lenders I've worked with on past deals, and open houses. I, do those,
Yeah.
and just kind of anywhere.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like so you're referencing directly more so of like the, like Crown Point neighbors helping neighbors, let's say,
Yes.
right? And
Yeah.
this one's like, hey, I need a real estate agent, and
Mhm.
there's 400 comments in the first hour and a half,
Right.
right? I see those too, because like
Yes.
I get tagged in some of those on the lending side,
Mhm.
and I'm like, dude, there's like 15 different
Yeah.
lenders here. Out of respect for the person that tags me, because like I do appreciate that.
Right.
I do, like, for sure. Like if you're somebody's watching this and you're thinking like, oh, somebody's on there, like tag me.
Oh,
Like
absolutely. Like I appreciate it. It
I
makes my
appreciate
heart
it.
like feel so
Exactly.
nice. Like,
I do
yeah.
love it. I'll shoot a DM to the person
Yeah.
like that created the post. I'm like, hey, I was recommended, reach out to me if you want to, right?
Mhm.
Like, so I'm still making the attempt. But I'm not fooling myself. I'm like, yeah, like the phone's probably getting blown up right
Right.
now by
Mhm.
16 different people. And if they didn't like, if you ever want to like make new friends, just make a post that you need a real estate
Yeah.
agent, and then you will not be able to get off your phone for the next 3 days.
Yeah.
So yeah, if
It's
you're
true.
lonely,
Yeah, no, that's why I
that's a
got into
good
real
trick
estate.
right there.
I was at home for 5 years with kids. I wanted friends, so
Exactly.
I went to real estate.
Exactly. So like, so that's that's the thing, right? Like I know I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, they're already overwhelmed with information. It's just not really like I've got other things that I need to deal with, and it's just not something I need to follow up with this person on, right?
Yes.
So that being said, like I don't think that I directly get a lot of business from social
Mhm.
media, but I indirectly get a lot of business from social media.
Yes.
And so like because I post consistently, I'm staying in front of the people's feeds, because at the end of the day, like when it comes to, real estate and, lending,
Mhm.
like for us it's more so I think than for real estate agents. But the average person knows 8 real estate agents.
Mhm.
the average real estate agent probably knows 20 different lenders, right? And so there's only two things that keep deals coming back to you as a lender. It's one, like how, like your last interaction with that person, how did you leave them feeling?
Mm-hmm.
And then number two is, are you staying in front of them consistently? There's only so many times I can call somebody on the phone.
Right.
There's only so many people I can call in a day, right? If I post on the social media, everyone can see it,
Yes.
right? If I send an email out, everyone can see it. And so leveraging, some of the newer school technologies, and this is true for any business, leveraging the new methods of marketing plus the traditional way of selling things,
Yes.
you are going to be way more visible, way more known, liked, and trusted. And then that just feeds into the appointments that you have and the calls that you make, because now people pick up your calls more often because they see you as an expert in that field.
Right. And I think that's kind of what we're starting to shift more towards, is people
Mhm.
wanting that too. They want the hybrid. They want people that know the old school. They want, to make sure you're doing everything by the book, but also that
Mhm.
you have that new school technology abilities. Like you can leverage AI and automation to get through, but you can also go walk the neighborhood and knock on doors and see if anybody has a
Yeah.
house or a neighbor that they want to sell a house to. And it's being able to do both and knowing how to manage the digital and analog
Yeah.
aspect of marketing, which is a lot, and expecting people to, oh, just get somebody to do your social media. Like that's a whole full-time job in itself that is actually
Right.
expensive to hire someone to manage social media management. And
Yeah.
like you just got to post on Facebook. Like it's not that simple, and it's
Yeah.
hard to explain. And that's where it's like, I'm just going to go into my own marketing aspect of it, because real estate marketing and is two completely different things. And
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that like a lot of times too, you've got I'll just use this example. Like you've got, older agents or older lenders. They've been in the business for forever. They're like so used to the old school tactics that still work for them because that's what they're doing. But they've hit the glass ceiling, right? And they can't really get any higher than that, right? Or maybe, you're still in growth mode and you're just still used to the old school stuff, right? And they're like, okay, I need to get a social media thing. I need to be able to run Facebook ads and be able to do like this thing and that thing or whatever it is. And so, like, this company reached out to Leader One, the people that I work for, and they got like, I was talking to somebody in the marketing team, like, hey, we want to put you on this pilot program for this company that does Facebook ads. I'm like, great. And they're like, all right, cool. Like, we'll get you on the call with them. I'm like, okay, I missed the call because I actually had something going on. And I was like, okay, just send me the recap and I'll watch it. And the guy's like, well, why did I call you and do the demo? I'm like, send me the recap. I'll watch the recap and I'll call you back.
yes.
Right. So I watched the recap and they're like, oh, yeah, like, here's the templates that you can use and like all this stuff. I'm like, great. So there's no originality. Everyone's using the same templates. And I was like, and I'm like, how much do you guys charge for this? And they're like, oh, well, we can set up the ads for you. And it's like, I think it's like $500 up front. And then like, $20 plus your ad spend for like each ad or whatever it
Right.
is. And I'm like, yeah, I was like, this is a cash cow if you're talking to a bunch of like old geezer lenders. But like, I've been running Facebook ads since before I got into the mortgage industry.
Right.
And I'm like, it's actually not that hard to set up a Facebook ad.
No.
Like it's pretty easy.
And especially if you're using like the same template and you're just kind of selling
Right.
a download that,
Right.
it's really hard to, see those, because I get those calls too. And,
Yeah.
over the past 10 years, like I have had a lot of, in real estate in general, is just a roller coaster. So every deal before it closes, you want to quit your job 10 times, in those 2 months of escrow, where it's
Right,
like,
right.
I hate this, I'm never doing it again. And then, you get to the end and it's like, this is the best thing ever. I love my job. Who wants to buy a house? And
Right.
it's just kind of, I don't even know where I was going with that, but
No, I get it, right? Like,
yeah, it's hard. And sitting at home, for those 5 years after I got my license. So I've switched a lot of brokerages. I've been, online only because I couldn't leave my house. I've had to, try to go to an office so I could have that interaction with other people, but then the people were gone now all of a sudden because they realized they can't do it from anywhere.
Right.
So it was kind of hard finding that happy medium. So I was sitting at home a lot during like the earlier days of COVID. And I don't know if you knew like Clubhouse with the rooms where everyone was
oh,
like,
yeah.
okay, so I was, oh my God.
I don't even think I was cool enough to get an invite to
No,
that because you're supposed to get an invite to it,
yeah,
right?
you had to be invited. So
Yeah.
yeah, I was with another company at the time and my mentor at that time because I would meet with her weekly, and it was like the one time I would have sent you an invite if we were friends
Well,
at the time because I was trying to get everybody on it
that makes me feel so much better.
just so that I could talk to people because I was trapped at home. But it was I could just sit there and go into any different room, and like it's so crazy now, like thinking back, because that was like 2020, and like not a lot of people were on it, but I connected with real estate people that I landed up becoming like great friends with that I worked with.
Yeah.
That if it wouldn't have been just me stuck at home needing to hear adult conversations and business conversations and just listening in on these rooms and then being like, oh, there's 4 people, like, do you want to come talk, person? And it's like, okay, yeah, like,
Yeah.
well, this is my thoughts. I'm like, well, that's a very great question. And then it turning into this whole conversation and answering questions I didn't know I had yet. And then being able to go back on that, in 3 years. So,
Yeah.
so I think it was like 22, like after I had my daughter and the rates like doubled. And the 3 months I took off, I got a call. They were trying to sell me lead services. And it was basically like I broke down and the guy was like, dude, I'm done. I don't want to buy anything from you. I don't want to sell anything. Like, and it was just, that let go of like, I don't even know if this is pointless. Every time my phone rings, it's somebody trying to sell me another lead service or another automation or another like, oh, if you pay this much money, then we'll actually let the people know that you are a real estate agent. It's like, that's not how I wanted this to be. And it was then, Zillow becoming a brokerage and all these things that I knew from business and like ethics in general that didn't sit right, that it's like, okay, well, I can't just, be turning a blind eye to things that I know don't feel right and needing to make choices that others don't understand or, explaining myself that,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that like, especially during that time, like, so, and I'm sure a lot of people probably already know this, but I'll recap it anyways. Like going from 19 was a very balanced market, 2020, the beginning, even like the first couple of months of COVID, things were still pretty normal for the most part. I mean, rates dropped and everyone's like trying to figure out what was going on and what's happening. But then once you got into like the summer of 2020, it just started ripping. Like everyone's trying to get, the homes prices started flying up, all that stuff started happening. And then that goes on and it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse from a standpoint of like, I mean, I've got, I was talking to agents. I'm like, hey, like, calling you, like my client's putting an offer in. Like, I just want to let you know on the loan side, like we're all set. These clients are great. We'll get this deal closed quick. They just like, hey, like I appreciate you reaching out. Like I've got 30 offers. And I'm putting them all on a spreadsheet and I'm just going to send the spreadsheet to my seller. Cause like, and in the moment I was like frustrated. I'm like, oh, like every time I'm like, damn it. Like, why aren't they taking our offer? Like whatever it is. But also like now, like looking at things objectively, I'm like, this poor listing agent is getting burnt out too. Right. Like it's great that they have a listing and they're going to get the deal regardless. Cause they're the one on that side of it. But I mean, they got to review 30 different offers. They got to explain to the seller, hey, like these are the top 5, like, whatever it is, or even just saying, hey, here's all 30, like, let's go through all of them. Right.
And you have to remain, like non-biased and be very, and that's where it gets kind of hard too. Like when you do, because I've had people come in and it's like, people still ask like, oh, can I submit like a letter? And it's like, yeah, like, I don't think we need to do that. Like, and it's just kind of explaining like, well, we have to try. And it's like, okay, but at the end of the day, it comes down to that seller and what their objective is. So is it money? Is it, emotion? Is it convenience? Is it, they want to make sure that the lender is going to do a good job and there's not going to be hiccups, because that is a big deal if you're working with a bad lender and it doesn't close on time and things fall through. So like having actual people to talk to and confirm that, this buyer is serious. It's important as a lender, or, as an agent, but it might not matter to a seller that just wants the highest dollar.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And then, then you go into like 2022, that everything started changing. You started seeing rates move up and they went from like 3% to 7% in that like
3-month period.
Full, like, as 12-month period, somewhere in the last, like very quickly, it went up to 7%. And so then you've got, now it literally dried up. It was crazy. Like, I was calling, during COVID, I would call my agents and I'm like, I have like 40 agents I call every Monday or whatever it is. Calling them all. Everyone's like, hey, I'm super busy. Like I've got deals. Like, let me throw you a lead. Like, let's get this one done. Let's go out. And then I'm calling the same people, in 2022 and 2023. just crickets.
Mm-hmm.
And, and the time, again, I was frustrated too, because I'm like, dude, I'm putting the work in, like I'm not getting any results or whatever it is. And, at the same time, like the agents that I was calling, they weren't picking up the phone because they're like, man, like I'm not closing anything right now. Like I don't
Mm-hmm.
even want to, like, I don't even know who I am anymore.
Right.
Right.
Like I'm so embarrassed to even pick up the phone almost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is. And, on my end, I'm like, looking back, it was selfish of me to think like, oh man, like, like what the heck? Like these people are, I used to be doing all this business with them, and now we're not doing any business. Are they going with somebody else? Like what's going
Mm-hmm.
on? And then the reality, they're just like, hey, I don't have anything going on. Like
Right.
I don't, whatever, right? And then you talk about your point, like, you've got people that are also selling to them saying, hey, like just buy this lead platform, do this stuff or whatever it is, and not offering any real solutions outside of buy my course, do this or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And he just led to a lot of burnout with a lot of
Yeah.
agents.
And I think I'm seeing that too more just like not even with real estate.
Hmm.
And it does kind of tie back to just like a multi-level marketing kind
Hmm.
of model that it seems, just kind of trickles down into all these things. Like when you have something like, an essential oil business that gets
Hmm.
busted and all these things, like these women necessarily weren't not doing a business. Like there's no discounting the work that any woman does, like at home or outside of the home. And like kind of recognizing those skills in yourself and then wanting to take that out, but not being taken seriously because you did sell makeup or something. And it's
Right.
like, I get that because like growing up, my grandma was in U.S. Steel, so she was always in like business, and she was a secretary. And then my uncle went into business and management. So just kind of learning that like from a child's point of view, and then going back into it, as a college graduate, and then coming back to it again like as an adult after having kids and seeing the same things just kind of rebranded.
Hmm.
And like Eat Enron, like things like that. It's like we saw those before the whole online selling of makeup. They just
Hmm.
targeted different people. It went from Tupperware to, this, and it's like leggings and it's all these things. These people now have the skills, they have the knowledge, but what are they doing with it? Are
Right.
they just, passing on the risk to somebody else? Like, buy my course, buy this info, and I'll tell you what you need to do. And then you could be a
Right.
business owner too. And then we'll all be happy and free
Right.
of corporate control. And it's like, that's not reality.
Right. Yeah, no, exactly. And like, to a certain degree, I do think that, you know, the real estate and financial industries, they're not necessarily like pyramid schemes or like MLMs or anything
Right.
like that,
No, not at all.
but they're very close.
But then that's the thing. It's like they are very close, and it's
Yeah.
kind of explaining that, but they're not. But
Right.
they could become if they're not regulated with things like
Hmm.
antitrust, and
For
so
sure.
that's why we have those. And so it sucks because timing wise, and like knowing that I did want to do this, when I was a 19-year-old, but I
Hmm.
wanted to get the college degree. I wanted to get all these foundational skills, which I'm so grateful that I was able to, and they were gifts that I didn't want to just give up. So I mean, like
Right.
it wasn't, like you have to go to college because we have all this money saved aside. It was you have Pell Grants, you have potential, you have opportunities, do something with it. But nobody
Hmm.
was telling me what what do you want, Angie? And it was like, I don't know. I don't know. And I still don't.
Yeah.
And it's kind of figuring that out. And also that I don't want one thing. I want
Mhm.
my options. I want freedom, and I can have that with structure from a business. And that, is what I really like lean towards with my jobs is I do need an upper management. I can't do it on my own. So yes, I
Right.
own my own business,
Yeah.
but I need to be held accountable to somebody
Oh, for sure.
always. So that's kind of where it's like real estate. It's all of it. It is my own business, but it's the selling. Like that's where I sell. I sell homes and properties under a regulated brokerage where everything is, managed and
Hmm.
controlled by somebody else that they're doing their job too.
Right.
It's not just me completely responsible for all of these things. That if somebody wasn't teaching me correctly or was just trying to get a sale at the end of the day, I could be putting myself in serious liabilities where I could lose a license that I worked really hard to get. And it's like
Right.
not understanding that, or, like, oh, just come get your real estate license, sell houses, you'll get rich and it'll be great. It's like,
Right. Well, and I think there's a lot of like, real estate brokerages that do have that model, right?
mm-hmm,
Where, they're like, hey, we'll just take as many people on as we can.
mm-hmm,
And then, we're just gonna close deals because we have the most amount of people, right? And then there's gonna be attrition, there's gonna be people that leave and come back or do whatever, or get out of the business entirely. But overall, like we're gonna retain people and we're gonna be able to close deals and make it happen. And there's nothing necessarily inherently wrong with that
mm-hmm,
business model. But that's where I feel like it really does get like closer to like the MLM type stuff where it's like, hey, we're going to get you in and then you go find 10 other friends and then they'll be under you and then you'll be able to make money off of them and then they each go get 10 friends.
Yes.
And so that's where I think that like recruitment without proper training, I think leads to, whether it's the industry or it's that particular company, leads to a lot of like distrust with the general public, and so that's one thing. Like I'm actively recruiting loan officers into my branch. I've got technically two. One's like my loan analyst, but he also writes some business himself. And so like I'm actively recruiting, I'm getting people into my branch, but I'm also making sure that, hey, I really only want to have a small amount of people. Like the most that I want to have right now is like 2 to 3 loan officers that are full-time loan officers. They're just doing that stuff because I can coach those people and I can put them all in one group call and I can call them each on the off week that we're not meeting. And then I can actually like help them, help develop them a lot better than I could develop 20 people at the same time.
Right. Because I mean, and that's where it goes back to basically having children. Like, yeah, everything was great when I had just the 2 children and it was, this or the other, but then I add in the third and it's like everything's completely different. Like, even though planning and knowing these things, it's the attention from one thing then takes away the attention from that. And that split second of attention, I could forget something that was so important that, the baby could have walked outside into, whatever. And it's like, knowing that with real estate too, that these are very serious things and you can't grow anything without giving your attention where it needs to be and kind of knowing that you can only grow with 2 people at a time and you can't bring on you can't go to the shelter and adopt every puppy and expect it to be, perfect. Everyone would love that, but I think that's the best way to do it is just, 1 or 2 people at a time, see how that goes and then nurture and see where it goes.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what I love.
Well, do you have any closing thoughts for us? Anything you want to wrap up with here?
No, like I said, I could talk about anything for
so
so long, and I appreciate, you giving me a space to just kind of let my thoughts kind of ramble because I'm not good on social media and I do start to type things out and I'm like, I don't know how this is going to come off and I delete things a lot and I don't like to make the videos. So actually being able to kind of sit down and explain like where I'm coming from and, getting into this business at a time that it seemed like everybody was doing it on a whim and just trying to do one thing and kind of going back now to like, I was really trying to be cautious and careful and was kind of like, why are you doing that? That's not how we do things anymore.
Right.
And just really reminding myself that it was part of a longer plan in my life. It wasn't, to make as much money as possible and then build my own real estate team and get huge. Like it was always supposed to be the life path that I was going down. So just remind myself of that at the end of the day. And like, you were right back then. Just keep going with your gut and finding the people that you align with. And I like it.
Awesome. I love it. So, well, thank you so much for coming on to the episode today. Where can people find you?
Honestly, right now I am stepping back a little bit farther from Facebook because I am working on the other businesses. Just kind of I do like selling real estate, but just the consulting part of it. Like if you don't have real estate yet, you don't have anything to sell or you're not in a position to buy, we can still talk about consulting, like how your business and your life align with that. And, everyone has jobs that they have to do. How can your job fit into your bigger plan with business, life, real estate, life,
Perfect. Awesome.
So online maybe, but more than likely, open houses, my cell phone.
Cool.
Call me. I might answer.
There you go. Sounds good. I'll get your info. Okay, we'll plug it in there we'll put it in the description so people can find it. So.
Awesome. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Angela, I appreciate your time today. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon.
All right.
Bye.